Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode, a playoff episode, a divisional round episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, and of course, my two esteemed co-hosts, Steve Kallas, Johnny Kallas. How are you, fellas? 4 games left in the season. Try not to shed a tear. They're going to be good games, though.
It's good. It's the best weekend of NFL football this weekend.
I agree with that. I know championship weekend is what it is, but I do like this weekend because you got 2 games, you got 8 teams left. Let's start with the Bills at the Broncos. All right, Bills are kind of a one or two trick pony. Did a nice job in Jacksonville coming away with a win. Tre'Davious White had like 3 breakout. He was great, and he's old. I thought Jacksonville didn't do themselves any favor by going away from the run when at one point their running backs were averaging 12 and a half yards a carry in the second quarter. But what's done is done. The Bills move on. First road playoff win for Josh Allen and company, taking their game into Mile High. Johnny, let me start with you. That altitude, I don't know when the Bills got in, but even if it's 5 days, I've been to Denver when I've had headaches for like a day or two before you adjust. These guys are professional athletes, they're not, my sorry ass. But that will that affect the Buffalo Bills, do you think, in a game like this today, I guess, in Denver?
I think people are forgetting, and I have not watched the shows as much, and so I don't know if either of you have on NFL Live. Denver, they haven't been in the playoffs. They haven't played a home playoff game in a long time. Denver is a tough place to play.
Yeah, sure.
Just not just the altitude. That crowd gets into it when they're good. They haven't been good in a long time. It was Brady and the Patriots' ultimate kryptonite, 0-3 on the
Yeah, they
road
had
in
trouble
Denver in
there.
the
Yeah.
playoff games. So Denver is, I'll tell you, it's usually not thought of this way. I'd rank it as one of the three or four toughest places to play when the team is good in football. And I don't think folks are maybe taking that as seriously. I think the other dynamic here is, the combination of injuries versus rest. The Broncos haven't played meaningful football in a while, whereas the Bills have, but Josh Allen is banged up. James Cook is a little bit banged up. They got a lot of other folks who are potentially not going to play. So I think the combination of injuries and the place where they're playing. Even though the Bills have that E word that Steve talks about, which is experience, makes this a really sort of fascinating, interesting game. I think a big question, the Broncos do throw the ball a lot. Sean Payton likes to throw the ball, but will they, J.K. Dobbins is still out, will they rely on their rookie R.J. Harvey, whereas the Jaguars did not, to really try and run the ball, take control of the line of scrimmage, and if they can get a lead, that pass rush gets after it, man. I mean, they were number one in football in sacks again. So I think there's a reason this is only a 1.5 point spread. But don't undercount the advantage of home field in Denver. That is a tough place to play for a number of reasons.
I don't usually like to reference the guys on ESPN. I love watching them and all that, but we're supposed to be the experts. So, but I will channel my Dan Orlovsky today. Well, it wasn't him actually. It was, but Brian Clark pointed it out. Dan Orlovsky, in the nicest way possible, basically said, if Bo Nix has to think, they're in trouble. You know what I mean? Not so. In other words, if Buffalo or if Sean Payton puts him in a situation where he's got to diagnose like 7 different types of defenses, and they might be in a little bit of trouble. I don't know how quick he is in processing or if he's intelligent or not intelligent. I think you have to be intelligent to be an NFL quarterback. It's only his second year, and his completion percentage is always high. So, but I do think it's his second year, and they haven't been in the playoffs in a while and haven't won much. Buffalo's playoff tested, but you're right, Johnny, that is a tough place to play. By the way, Champ Bailey, did he have about like a major pick six in one of those New England playoff games? Well, I remember Champ Bailey doing something in one of those
That's when
games.
Ben Watson, that should have been the touchback that they ruled he was out at the one when Ben Watson ran 150 yards to knock him
Yes.
out. Yep.
Yes.
2005 AFC divisional round. Yep.
Sorry, I don't know why I just sort of went that direction. Steve, um, so you have Superman basically, and probably the best quarterback in the tournament, and maybe something the best quarterback in football against a second year guy. Play with a good defense. Sacked a lot of folks this year, and in a very tough place, as Johnny said, to play football with that crowd and that event. Tim Tebow, hell, won a playoff game there, beating the Steelers in overtime. I think the offensive coordinator of the Patriots might have been the coach at that time. Was he?
He had just left, but he drafted Tebow. He had just
Oh, he
left.
did. Okay, okay. So, Steve, What do you think about I like to look at the defenses and the quarterback. Edge goes to Josh Allen, but does he have enough of a supporting cast? He's got, like Johnny said, James Cook, who I like, rushing king this year. What do you think about the quarterback matchup?
I think it's a big plus for the Bills, obviously, but I am going back to what Johnny mentioned, E for experience, because Bo Nix has only played one playoff game. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it last year. Bills were up 10-7 at the half in Buffalo. So Johnny's right
He got
about
crushed.
that. They got crushed. And so I don't
Forgot
see
about that
how,
game.
huh?
Forgot about that game. This is a rematch of a playoff game from last year.
31-7. It turned out to be a blowout in the second half. Bo Nix was 13 for 22 for 144 yards. Um, I think there's so much experience on the Bills side. And once again, you're not showing up to play Patrick Mahomes. You're showing up to play Bo Nix. Can he beat them? Absolutely, they can beat him. I think, of course, because they have a great defense. I did see some stats. And meanwhile, when you were talking about Dan Orlovsky, I believe after that, he and everybody else picked the Broncos. I'm pretty sure.
Ah, I
I
probably
think the
flipped it
whole
by
group.
then.
I wrote them all down last week and went against a couple of them, which is probably why I was able to cover a lot of these games. But um, against the zone, Bo Nix is a horrific quarterback. Against man, he's number three in the league. So I'm guessing, and the Bills, they play a lot of zone. So I think that's going to help them. And in terms of what you guys were talking about, Johnny took me somewhere in Colorado once. Took me
That
up
was
to
that was that was much higher than 5,000 feet. That was high.
yeah, he took me up to far more than that. My heart started pounding. I'm like, where the hell are we? But I have no sense of that except, the higher you go, the harder it is. But I will say this, Joe, they had a very detailed, I just had Sports Center on this morning. They had a very detailed, while staying in Buffalo, it's not like they went out there 3 days or 4 days early, but by staying in Buffalo, they used all these contraptions now that they have to kind of maybe fake, but somehow do it so you're practicing and you're playing that week when you practiced hard with, you had these not gas masks, but they were doing things to fight the how high they're going to be,
Like
5,000.
fighter pilots when they go into that room and they try to play cards and you
They
watch
did
them.
something. They did something. I don't know if it was exactly that, but they did have a whole list of what they did, which is interesting and will change the game if it's not a big deal for them. I thought in the old days, sometimes you go out a few days early and just by walking around and breathing, maybe get something. Do I think that's a factor? Absolutely. Is Johnny right about the crowd and everything? Absolutely. But I'm just going on experience like I did last week with the Bills. They won. Could they have lost? It's week to week now, but these guys are so experienced that I think that could put them over the top. The Broncos, I don't know, did Nick play the last game? Has he not played in 3 weeks? Or, that's a something that doesn't usually happen in football.
They
And
played. He played. But
Yeah.
they were playing the Chargers sat everybody, so they haven't played a real meaningful game in a while.
so I think I like the Bills. I like Josh Allen. He's the best player on the field. That always counts for something. And can he be Superman again? I think the answer is yes. Although I just saw who's our guy, Johnny, the African American guy who's really
Louis
good.
Riddick.
Yeah, and he just picked both number one seeds. So
Who's that, Johnny?
Riddick. Louis
Oh,
Riddick from
oh, I
ESPN.
love the Riddick. Lovely Riddick.
yeah, so he picked that. They asked him to pick the games. I don't know if they always do that, but he picked the Broncos and Seattle. I know we'll get to Seattle because they're a question mark. And they're the second game tonight. But I'm still going the Bills. I think it's yeah, the Broncos are 1.5 favorites this morning on FanDuel.
Right. Don't
So
give away your picks yet. We're gonna have a pick section. And
okay.
unless you're retired, because you were 6-0, and you've
I
let us
was
hear
think
about that 5 times, I think, already.
I was thinking of retiring, but Johnny called me a chicken, so I'll have to come.
All right. Well, you see, if you mentioned the 49ers and Seahawks, I think I'm looking forward to that game. They played a couple weeks ago, 13-3. People are talking about, well, how concerned are you about Sam Darnold? And I saw some people, some of the experts kind of, well, not too concerned because he blah, blah, blah. He won 13 games last year, 14 games last year. Yeah, but he tanked late in the season. Now, again, he tanks. This isn't the Rams. He tanks when he plays the Rams. He's good for about 2 to 4 picks every time he plays the Rams. It's not the Rams. It's the Niners who put up 23 in Philadelphia. They put up 3 at home in a game for the top seed a couple weeks ago. Trent Williams is going to play. Fred Warner is not going to play. I believe. Who'd you tell me the kid who got shot?
Ricky Pearsall.
Thank you. Ricky Pearsall's going to play. And look, I like what San Francisco did last week. Forget about Kyle Shanahan. They looked like they wanted it more. They came in with energy and they outplayed the Eagles. Forget about X's and O's. They seemed like they did their jobs. They even despite the 2 interceptions. And it is an astronomical number to win a game and win a playoff game on the road when you lose the turnover battle by 2 or more. Astronomical. So I give a lot of credit to the Niners and what they've done. And Kyle Shanahan might not be a guy that can quite win the Super Bowl. He's come close 3 times. He's lost some big leads. In fact, totaling 45 points he's lost in terms of leads in 3 Super Bowls. That's a tough one. But Steve, I'll start with you. There's 7-point dog. You don't have to give the play out, but they're not getting a lot of respect from Vegas. Sam Darnold has mentioned, and he was limited at practice. He has a little bit of an oblique strain. That can take, if that's legit, it could take a lot out of you in terms of, pop and that snap at the end to put a lot on the ball. Although I think since the Rams game where he threw 4 picks, seems like Mike McDonald, the coach, yeah, he's taken that. It's almost they've gone a little more conservative. I like what he did against the 49ers. He didn't make Sam Darnold do everything. They ran the ball well. They played great defense like they do. Charbonnet had a nice game. What do you do with Sam Darnold? How concerned would you be? And how much pressure's on Sam Darnold today?
Well, it's the usual. Is which Sam Darnold is he going to be? I mean, they have the great defense. Obviously, they shut down. I mean, last week I thought I picked the 49ers, obviously, to cover. I thought they could win, but I have to tell you, watching the game when Kittle's out for the season, I didn't think they could win, but they won. To me, they have the best player on the field, and that would be McCaffrey. And that's a big plus, obviously, in the playoffs. And you saw it last week after Kittle got hurt. I thought they need Purdy, Kittle, and McCaffrey to be the 49ers and win big games. But I was proven wrong, even though I picked the 49ers. So Sam Darnold, here's the problem. I saw, again, Shefty this morning. He said that Sam Darnold, since he tweaked his oblique, has not thrown a pass. And they just, I guess, want to give it all the rest.
Yeah, because if you could tweak it more, and if you do that, you're out.
And then they're pitching Drew Lock. At least if you're a Seattle fan or Seattle on the team, oh, he can come in and do it. He can do it.
I beat the Eagles in 23, but anyway.
Yeah. So once again, I thought 7.5 was a lot when it started. It's down to 7 now. And I think it might be an under game, frankly, because the Seattle with or without Sam Darnold, I don't think they're good. He's got 20 turnovers. He's got more turnovers than anybody in football.
Oh,
So
they turn the ball over every other play, but their defense bails him out, and he can play well. I've seen him play well, but he's never won a playoff game.
right. So
Purdy's been to the Super Bowl and almost outdueled Dracula.
yeah, well, I think Purdy doing that and what he's done, and especially last week, again, once Kittle is gone. And I'm not saying Ricky Pearsall is Kittle because he's not, but Ricky Pearsall is a very good wide receiver, and they got these secondary guys who are really playing well. And I think it's an under game. I don't even know what the under is because the Seattle just gave up 3 points to the 49ers with Kittle. So what are they going to score without him? I think they're
You
going to
never
score.
know. It's week to week. Sometimes you'll
So-
see a big. That's hard to predict. The over under is 45.5. Johnny, your thoughts? So he hasn't thrown a pass, according to Steve Schefter over there above you. And I don't blame him. You really don't want to mess with those obliques because it's central to your body, and especially I heard Cam Newton talking about it. It gives you that extra pop. Does have a very nice arm. So against Brock Purdy, who has experience, and he's a pretty gritty player. For being Mr. Irrelevant, he doesn't play like that. And he found ways to overcome. His second pick was horrendous. The first one was I'll give Quinyon Mitchell some credit there, but Can the 49ers win this game?
Yeah, of course, I think they can win, but this is a really difficult game for me to pick because, look, the Niners with Kittle scored 3 points at home 2 weeks ago against this defense.
In the
Now,
game for, I mean, it's not for all the marbles, but the top
those
seeds
were a
only have to
lot.
play two
Yeah,
home playoff games in Santa Clara.
yeah, there was
You
for a
get
lot.
one more in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara.
And McCaffrey, he did bobble that pass. That's very un-McCaffrey like, so
Yeah,
they could have easily scored there. You would think Kyle Shanahan, he is an offensive guru, would be able to figure something out. But on the flip side, man, I know Sam Darnold is a huge question mark. They have been running the ball really well. They've been running the ball really well. The Niners defense is still banged up, and the Eagles offense, holding them to 19 doesn't say anything to me. So I hesitate. 7 points is a lot. That's a challenging one, but good defenses, pass rushes at home in tough places to play. Seattle being the top of the list. We talked about Denver, Seattle being the top of the list with the 12th man. Yeah, that's tough. So can the Niners win? I think if Sam Darnold has a classic, just horrific Sam Darnold game and they get behind the points, this is almost one where do you flirt with actually if you're the Niners taking the ball, try and go down and score and put some pressure on them. I'm not saying they will or they should, but that's something you could think about. But I think it relies on it. I think if you're picking the Niners, especially to win outright, you're relying on Sam Darnold to have a quintessential Sam Darnold playoff game, which is very much in the cards. So this is a tough one to pick.
agreed. And we'll get to picks shortly. Let's move to Sunday, 3 o'clock. They used to do that on championship weekend, only have a 3 to 6:30. But here we are, the penultimate weekend before championship weekend. Texans at the Patriots. Texans are a little banged up. Patriots are strong. Their defense was outstanding against the Chargers. And Drake May, when he had to make some plays, made some really nice plays. It's at New England. It's a tough place to play. The Texans defense, they've won 10 in a row, I believe. They're just nasty. Again, you can't hide from them. I'm not sure how much they even care about staying in their lanes. They just, run with reckless abandon to the quarterback. Drake May's going to have his hands full today, but Johnny, I mean, you're very, in touch with the Patriots. How do you see this game? Oh,
I
and
think
Nico Collins
Colin.
isn't playing.
Yeah, the big storyline during the week was how would unfortunately for both these players, concussion protocol play out. Nico Collins and Christian Gonzalez were both in the protocol. Gonzalez may have had the advantage of being in the protocol an extra day. They played on Sunday versus the Texans on Monday. And what ends up happening is Nico Collins, far and away, I know Christian Kirk had a great game, but far and away, their best really player on offense is not going to play. And Christian Gonzalez, the Patriots' best cover player, probably best player on defense, is going to play. And that is a huge swing. There's no getting around that. I think another factor in this game is how tight are the refs going to call it. This Texans defense is physical. They're physical in their front four. They're physical in their secondary. Are the refs going to call it tight, which I think would be a big advantage for the Patriots, or are they going to let these guys play, which I think would be a big advantage for the Texans with regards to defensive holding, PI, etc. Um, Drake May, you're really relying. I think the guy who's been really undervalued this year in the media. We talk a lot about Mike Vrabel. I would give just as much credit to the Patriots turnaround to Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is a great offensive coordinator. I know he struggled as a head coach. He was great with Brady. He was great with Matt Castle. He was great with Mac Jones, and he's been great with Drake May. I'm not saying all those guys were good, but he maximized all those
I
guys to
agree. Yeah.
so do you put faith, as I would like to, I'm biased as a Patriots fan, that he can have Drake May prepared so he doesn't make the same stupid mistakes against an even better front four that he did last week, turning the ball over, which will cost him this week if he does the same thing. So this is a really tough game. I do think what swings it to me is actually just how the injuries shook out. If you told me Nico was playing and Gonzalez wouldn't, I don't really like that -3. We'll get the picks later, but I do think that's a huge swing for the Patriots. Obviously, they'll be playing at home. Though good defenses can travel, I mean, that's important. I don't think it's do or die because Houston is a warm weather place. I still think their defense can play well. There's a reason this game's only 3 points. It should be a good one.
It should be a good one. And as I'm going over the numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like they have one, including the playoff game. Yeah, the Texans are on a 10-game winning streak. Steve, that goes a long way back. I know they lost their first 3 games of the year, and statistics show that teams that do that rarely make the playoffs. Not only have they made the playoffs, but they look like they're going to make some noise. Pittsburgh hung with them for a little bit, but that game really just needed to go further down the road, and then it broke out. And a couple defensive touchdowns late made that game look worse than it was. But they limited Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers to like 3.1 yards per attempt per play. That was kind of embarrassing. Here they are against one of the top teams in the league. I don't care if they played the 32nd toughest schedule. They're 14-3. 14-3. Oh yeah, no, they're 14-4.
15-3 now.
15-3 with the playoff win. That's impressive. Steve, your thoughts? Texans on the road.
Well,
Again, second game on the road.
I agree with everything Johnny said. And I will say this, even Johnny may not know this, but this is Josh McDaniels' 23rd game as a Patriot offensive coordinator. And I think
Postseason, right?
huh?
Playoff?
Yeah, and I think this is experience really matters. Now you can tell me, I think the Texans have been in the playoffs 3 years in a row. So you can tell me they probably have some more experienced players than the Patriots. But the whole flip for me came in, and Joe, this is the beauty of doing this stuff on Saturday morning, whether they're playing Saturday or Sunday, as opposed to in the old days, we used to pick them on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
And our
That's
records
good.
probably show that, but I think the closer you get, so when you hear, if we had to pick this game and we didn't know if Collins was in or out, and we didn't know if Gonzalez was in or not, I'd probably lean Texans. But again, I think McDaniels is going to have a way to somehow deal with the edges, maybe double teams on both sides, maybe, keep a back end or have a tight end ship, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and so I think the Patriots can win this game. I think before I heard Nico, because I said to Johnny before we came on the air, I said, Nico Collins out, Christian Gonzalez in. That's got to be worth 3 points. And it might be worth more than 3 points. Because now I assume if they're going to go man, they're going to put him on Kirk. And then, as Johnny said, Kirk had a great game last week. But if you got Gonzalez on Kirk, I mean, he's in Revis territory, I think. And Gonzalez, I'm talking about. So I'm kind of leaning Patriots. I know because of the way the Texans won on paper 30-6, but you take out those 2 touchdowns and look, 2 defensive touchdowns is incredible. But it was kind of towards the end of the game. All you saw was poor Johnny's favorite Aaron Rodgers on the floor with his hands out. And I think he
Not
just
my favorite. I think you're being sarcastic, but just for the viewers
yeah,
to
being sarcastic.
know.
But again, that turned the 16-6 into the 30-6 or whatever it was. It was pitiful at the end of that game. So do I think the Texans can do that to the Patriots? I don't. But I think how the game plan that Josh McDaniels comes up with, and he's got more experience than the OC and the DC of the Texans combined in terms of the playoffs again. I'm kind of leaning Patriots, and I'm trying not to be biased because Johnny's a Patriots fan, and I certainly had to respect them for 25 years. But yeah, I think look, can the Texans win? Absolutely. I think the Patriots have, what is it, Johnny? Did you see that, a 52% chance to win or a 53% chance to win?
It's
They're
toss-up.
favored, they're favored by 3 because they're at home.
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to. You get 3 points for being home. Night game at 6:30. Now this is a game I really want to watch. I mean, I do appreciate good defenses, but I almost laugh that some of these teams can go right up and down the field. And these guys are two of the final 8 teams, and people had the Rams all year. I never really had my arms around the Rams. They lost 3 games from special teams. They have small cornerbacks, gave up a 19-point lead to the Eagles, lost that game. But and it had to come back in Carolina. I know, listen, it's an NFL. Things happen from week to week. Matt Stafford, some places I'm looking at ESPN, they're 4.5-point favorites. FanDuel has them at 3.5-point favorites. The Bears seem to come back from no matter how many they're down in the fourth quarter and win games. It's going to be under 20 degrees. Matt Stafford's never started a game. For what that's worth, in under 20-degree weather, wind chill might even be colder. Right now it's 21 degrees at Soldier Field. Steve, your thoughts? Rams. A lot of people had the Rams picked to win the Super Bowl, going up against the Bears team. Really, The first year with Ben Johnson, last year was kind of a disastrous year. First year, they did win a playoff game against the Packers, had to come down from 21 to 3. Got it done. That ridiculous throw to Roma Dunze by Caleb on 4th and 8 was still, to me, that's how you build your legacy. Throws like that. And then the one to DJ Moore. It was just, wild. Your thoughts? Can Matt Stafford and company go in there with that explosive offense? Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, and Parkinson, who made that great catch to win the game last week in Carolina. Can they get it done in Soldier Field tomorrow night?
I think they can get it done. Um, but it's not only the temperature, it's Stafford's pinky finger, I think it is. They said he had some problems with it, but he'll be okay. But I don't know, when you play and it's 0 degrees, because that's what the wind chill is going to be.
Yep.
Uh, they said on NFL matchup, Sal Palantonio is at that game, or I think he said, oh no, that's going back to Denver. I'll say that for another time. But I think it's going to be brutally cold. I haven't been a big Bears fan this year, much like I haven't been a Steelers fan, and it caught up with the Steelers last week. I'm not saying it's going to catch up with the Bears here, because again, they're at home. They lead the NFL in takeaways. Their defense isn't great, but they lead the NFL in takeaways. But I think you're going to see a lot of running in this game on both sides. And I think the Rams will be able to run the ball on the Bears. And then we'll see Matt Stafford. You're not worried about Matt Stafford having a Sam Darnold game, for example, or a Jared Goff game, for example. But you are worried about his health plus the weather. He hits his hand on the helmet in the first possession that they have. That's going to be a big problem. Um, but again, I think the Rams have the best player, and I don't think it's Stafford. I think it's Puka Nacua. I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. And so leaning Rams, can the Bears win? Well, the numbers Caleb Williams has put up in terms of comebacks in the fourth quarter. And I'm sure you both know the whole behind the scenes thing, um, where I think the brother of the coach of the Packers is he the offensive coordinator on the Rams or the defensive coordinator?
Oh, LaFleur. Yes.
His brother, Matt LaFleur's brother, is so they asked McVay, so what about the blah, 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 and the blah, and he goes, well, we all do what we try to do, and we try to get after it and learn all we can, and I'm very good friends with Matt LaFleur. That's what he said. And of course, there was real hatred in the. I mean, if you saw the handshake after the playoff game, even
Yeah,
then,
Johnson's a punk. I wouldn't shake his hand if
yeah,
I was
even
LaFleur
when he
anymore.
conquered the Packers in an incredible game, he couldn't stop and shake the guy's hand. He shook his hand on the run, which I think is Bush League. Will that
He's
really
he's
make
a
a
punk.
difference? Will that really make a difference? I think it could make a difference because you're going to have Matt LaFleur and his brother, and they're all going to know what the Bears are. Um, so I'm leaning Rams right now, but can the Bears win? Absolutely. This is another game, I think, where when you look at the teams that anybody can win, both sides can win all four of those games.
I agree. It could go either way. Johnny, your thoughts on the night game?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Brutal weather, two bad secondaries, two quarterbacks who have arm talent to really be able to throw through bad conditions. I mean, Stafford and Caleb Williams have two of the, I'd say, four or five best arms just from a strength standpoint in football, and they
On
can make
arm talent. Yep.
some incredible throws. But look, the Bears have to come back all the time, but the Rams giving up 31 twice to Carolina. What are they going to do against a team with two good receivers, two very good tight ends, and DeAndre Swift out of the backfield playing with a ton of confidence? So, points at home, we'll get to that in a minute. I can see this game going either way. I thought the Rams would really pull it all together and really distance themselves as the best team in football. They just haven't to me. But this one's also a toss-up.
We'll see what happens. They had a punt block last week. They had two kicks blocked in Philly this year. Um, yeah, their special teams is kind of a train wreck. All right, John, let's do picks. Johnny, we'll start with you. Let's go back to the Bills Broncos.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be gosh, Steve's been really good, and I think I'm going against him in a lot of these games, but really great defense at home, tough place to play. Josh Allen banged up. Give me Denver -1.5. 49ers Seahawks. This one is the one that I've had the toughest time with because I really don't like Sam Darnold. I do love that defense. No George Kittle. They held him to 3 in San Francisco. I'll take Seattle -7. Texans, Patriots. Patriots can't play from behind. That's the one thing that'll get them in trouble against this front four. I think they'll get the lead early. I think they'll hold on. I'll take a -3. And then Rams, Bears. I don't know what we're going with. I'm taking the Bears, so I like the extra point, Joe, but I'll take them. Whatever you guys are the dignitaries here. Whatever you guys decide, I'll take them either +3.5, +4.5. I'll just take the points with the home team that knows how to come back. And the Rams could win by 3 and the Bears still cover. You never know.
This is true. So Johnny, Johnny, you took the Bears in this game?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Bears +3 or 4.5, Patriots -3, Seahawks -7, and Broncos, I think it's -1.5.
Three favorites and one dog. Steven, you're up.
Yeah, I'm different from Johnny, and usually that really scares me, but it does scare me again now. But look, experience with the Bills. I think they have the best player on the field. I'll take the 1.5. Understanding all the problems with playing in Denver, but I think mentally they have to be. We killed these guys last year, and that's Bo Nix's only playoff game. So I'm not saying Bo Nix isn't Sam Darnold, but Bo Nix can on occasion make. I don't know about what Dan Orlovsky said. I think that's a cheap shot at a guy who, what's he in his second year now, and he's been
Second year.
he's been really good this year. You can't be a minor league, you can't be a backup quarterback in the league for years and then say Bo Nix can't, if he has to think.
Well said. Well
I'm,
said, Steve.
I'm sorry, that's just Bush League. I'm going to take the 49ers plus the 7 for the same reason. I took them last week. Yes, Seattle held them to 3. Johnny's right. But what they did last week, I'll say it again, when Kittle was out, I thought they could win. I took the points, which was like, I don't know, Joe, was like 5.5. I'll take the 49ers plus 7. You don't know what's going to happen with Darnold, but if Darnold has to come out of the game with his oblique, I think the 49ers then will have even a better chance. But you're right, Johnny, about the Seattle defense. If you look at it that way, what are they going to score? Maybe they'll score 10 points. Will that be enough to win? Is Sam Darnold's the quarterback? I don't know. I don't know. Also, the Patriots, and I might be leaning this way because of Johnny, but really the clincher for me was, and I think the Texans are like, I don't really look at the money line much, but the Texans are like plus 150 on the money line. That strikes me as a pretty decent bet. But again, the clincher for me wasn't Johnny Kallas, but it was Nico Collins out, Christian Gonzalez in. That's huge. I think that's huge because what Johnny said about Kirk is true. He's not Nico Collins, but he had a great game. And I have a sense that if they're going to play any man, they're going to, put Gonzalez on Kirk. And then I'm not sure where the Texans are. And again, their quarterback, CJ Stroud, is he going to be CJ Stroud year 1 or CJ Stroud year 2? You just don't know. And again, and the Patriots are at home. Finally, I almost switched to the Bears, but I'll take the Rams minus the 3.5 because they have the best player on the field. I don't know who the best player on the field is in Texans Patriots, Johnny. So that's the only reason I didn't. You can give me one of their ends.
Drake May, baby. Drake May. Come on.
Well, okay. Drake May is the best. That's why I'm picking them. No, I'm taking the Rams minus the 3.5. It was 4.5 on FanDuel. It's down to 3.5. And the Bears have performed miracles. I think their coach is a little too big for his britches. He might win it. He might win it, and good for him. But I'm going to stick with the Rams. I'm going to stick with Puka doing something big. And of course, their other good wide receiver is back. I don't know how good he's going to be, but he's back. So I like the Rams. I did want to say one other thing about the Bills game. I should have said this when I picked the Bills. They're getting back Curtis Samuel. Who knew where he was all season? He's playing, and even bigger, Ed Oliver is playing. So
he is playing.
Those are my picks. Bills, 49.
So Steve, you got. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
So Steve has.
We only have the Patriots overlapping.
John.
Sorry.
You took the Bills and 49ers?
I did.
2 dogs, and then you took the Patriots and the Rams.
Yeah.
So you have 2 favorites, 2 dogs. Johnny has 3 favorites, 1 dog, correct? Wow. I'm going to round it out here. And I know Johnny's smarter than me on my best day, but I'm going to go against every pick Johnny has. And we'll see what's what. I think I'm doing it. I have the Bills. I think they're going to win outright. That's a 1.5 point line. Probably won't come into play. I like the 49ers. That's a lot of points in a playoff game for a team that's kind of hot. I know they lost by 10 a couple weeks ago. Probably deserved a little better fate. Johnny, you mentioned that Christian McCaffrey bobble. It rarely happens. Turned into an interception. Probably could have scored more points. Didn't set the world on fire in Philly, but did enough to win. I don't think the one thing I learned, and Steve knows I put my little rules together of my little gambling playbook because I've made these mistakes. You know, the 5.5, Steve, you mentioned it. I went with the Eagles last week. What were they laying? 5.5. They lost. All right. So, yeah, I go against my own rules sometimes, and it always gives me a reminder. Why'd you do that? You put this book together from the last 20 years. When one play, unless it's the quarterback, a good, very good player like Kittle who goes down in the game doesn't really affect the points in the game. Rarely. Like if you did an analysis, it would be like, 3/10 of a point in the. I'm not kidding either. I saw that once. So Nico Collins going down. While I wish he was there because I'm picking the Texans just because I like their defense and they're getting points. I like dogs. I don't think that's going. It's going to affect their offense. I just don't think it's going to affect the overall game. It doesn't usually unless it's the quarterback. And I've lost lots of games where, like, oh, that guy's out. Boom. I go the other, boom, they lose. And I like the Rams. I'm going with the favorite here. So I'm going three dogs and a favorite. I think the Rams, whatever that line is, 3.5, 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 is a big line for Chicago, who can score some points. And you're right about the arm talent in that building. Lots of it, and we'll see how Matt Stafford's pinky works out. I mean, and that could change on the first play if he bangs a helmet again or gets sandwiched somehow. So I'm going three dogs and a favorite, and we'll see what happens, fellas. I want to talk a little quickly. John Harbaugh might be going to the Giants. Not finalized yet. Real quick. If you can give me 30 seconds, Steve, on John Harbaugh and the difference he might make if he is officially the Giants head coach.
Well, I think it'll make a big difference. He's got a great resume. He's got one Super Bowl. Some will say he should have three. He's not going to a team that's remotely talented like the team he's leaving. But as of Wednesday night, supposedly there was an agreement, but now they're just trying to, I don't know, cross the T's, dot their I's, whatever they're trying to do. But now some people, Shefty today said, well, some people are getting concerned because they agreed on Wednesday. It was agreed. But now they were just filling in the blanks, so to speak. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're still filling in the blanks.
Nothing kills a deal more than time.
Right. So some people are worried about that. But obviously, I think it'll be a good pickup for the Giants, who have a good quarterback, an all-pro wide receiver, and a good running back and a good defense. So I think they'll be, as Johnny said before, we came on. They'll be a lot better next year. I don't think they'll be the Patriots better, but they'll be a lot better next year.
Johnny.
Yeah, I think it's the best fit for Harbaugh. The big question is, can he be a leader that kind of knocks some sense into Jackson Dart and gets him away from being this tough guy who's willing to take concussions and cost his team games? Because I think what Harbaugh saw is you have a rookie quarterback who had a good year for a rookie, a really good running back, and like Steve said, an all-pro receiver, a good front four that's young. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about this Giants team. I think if you're a 4-13 team, you couldn't be set up better for the future. And now you potentially have probably the best coach on the market. So I'm more optimistic than probably you guys are about the Giants next year if they land Harbaugh. I think they can be pretty good. I'm curious to see that over/under wins total already.
Can someone just explain to me, and this isn't an indictment, but I want because everyone hears the name Harbaugh, and I liked him when he was a coach here, when he was a special teams coach under the Andy Reid tree, won a Super Bowl in 2012. And someone said maybe Steve, he should have two more Super Bowls. He's had Lamar Jackson, who's, a video game highlight at times. He comes up small in the postseason. I think Todd Monken's going with him. I think that's going to help if he does for their offense in New York. But he hasn't won one in a long time. And he's had Derrick Henry. They added him to the lineup. They had a home AFC title game against the Chiefs, and I think they ran the ball 6 times,
Yeah.
and they lost by 17-10, I think it was, through 3 picks, into a couple team meetings in the end zone. Trey Flowers fumbled at the goal line. Like things happened to him, but like he's come up short a lot more. To me, he's come up a lot more times he's come up short than he's won, and my confidence in him is waned a little bit. Am I missing that?
I just want to emphasize because I've been, and we don't have time to go into this. I've been so curious how Belichick has been totally outcast from these job openings, and guys like
Great point.
who haven't won with elite quarterbacks are the hottest commodity in football. And I think it comes back to these teams are desperate to be competitive. I think these teams are desperate to be competitive. So what you see from Jim Harbaugh is he's made the Chargers competitive, even though they can't win in the playoffs. They're at least live. John Harbaugh is gonna bring the seats. You know, people are going to be excited about the Giants. It's going to raise the ticket price. I think they'll be a playoff competitor. But you're totally right, Joe. If you're talking about winning Super Bowls, it's a big problem. If you're talking about being competitive, though, I think they got the right guy.
Okay, that's interesting. Going so now the bar is let's be competitive, and
I
that's
think so. What's
I
up? Why
agree
is it
with no,
so
no, I
popular?
agree with you. I
I
think
think so.
that's
You
yeah. I
have a
mean,
two-time MVP and you can't sniff a Super Bowl, and the guy who's won six Super Bowls with, granted, the greatest quarterback of all time has been totally outcast from everything. I know there's other factors there, but it's just fascinating how that works. Same thing with Tomlin. Same thing with Tomlin.
yeah, they're names. They're names that people I think just glom onto names, and Tomlin really hasn't done anything since Ben Roethlisberger. Again, I think but see, that's where John Harbaugh has had an elite quarterback when he's healthy, and during the regular season, he's phenomenal. Don't know what happens in the postseason, but going to be interesting. I know Steve, that's your squad. I hope they do well. I have friends that used to work for the Ravens, like John Harbaugh as a guy, as a head coach. Done some things there. Won a Super Bowl against his brother. I think that's the last time anyone saw Colin Kaepernick. Um, but let's move on real quick to the college game. There's one game left. Miami, they're now an 8.5 point dog. I love it. I have some Miami friends down there that are like, "Oh, we're being disrespected." I hope the line goes to 17. I hope they feel completely disrespected. Put it on the bulletin board, put it, in their helmet, anything to motivate them more. They actually, I didn't know this. Miami played against Mendoza when he was at Cal last year. Cal had a 28-point lead in the third quarter. Miami came back and won. It wasn't Mendoza's fault. They ran all over Miami. But he played, he had two touchdowns and interception. His quarterback rating was in the 70s. He wasn't great, but I had no idea that was the guy that was going to take it, from one program to another. Is he that good? You know how hard it is to win 16 games in a row in any season at any level? I mean, this is what they do. It'd be the first time. In the pros, it's only happened in the regular season once. The Patriots did it. They went 18-0 in the playoffs, and then, sorry, Johnny, they came up short against the Giants. Obviously, the Dolphins went 17-0. A couple teams went 15-1. The Vikings with Randall. I think Cam Newton did it. I think the Packers did it once with Aaron Rodgers, lost to the Giants in the first round. 16-0 is very tough to do. Steve, your thoughts on Monday night's game?
Yeah, my quick thoughts are it's all Indiana. Johnny and I picked up on them very early in the year. What was it, week 4, Johnny, when they beat
63 to 10.
63 to 10. We're like, who are these guys? So we kind of had an eye on them most of the year. If we were intelligent, maybe we would have bet them to win the whole thing when they beat Illinois, who was ranked like number 9 in the country then, or something. I mean, very high in the country. I think they're gonna I think they're going to cover the 8.5 against Miami, but you know much more about it than me, Joe. It just seems like nobody can play with these guys, and they all have a chip on their shoulder, especially the coach and the quarterback. The quarterback has a chip on his shoulder too. He said, "We got a bunch of misfits here. We got a bunch of people that people didn't think were any good." And the coach is bitter, I think, that he didn't get this chance 10 or 15 years ago. But he's got it now. He's got a $90 million contract, and he's going to go out of his way to try and kill Miami. I don't know that he will, but I think they can cover 8.5.
The
But I
thing
defer to
is,
you, Joe. I defer to you.
well, I have no idea, to be honest with you, because if it comes down to discipline, I'll take the team in red. My team plays very undisciplined. Doesn't matter how high the stakes are. They've always done that, though. Back in the day, though, when they had like Jerome Brown and like um, Alonzo Highsmith and Vinny and the fatigues and it, they could do that. They had 212 yards of penalties in the Cotton Bowl. They got banned from. I'm surprised they let them play this year. I thought they were banned from the Cotton Bowl, and they won by 42 over a Texas team playing in their home state. They could get away with it. Yeah, almost bit them against Ole Miss. They held Ole Miss to 18 minutes of possession, and they still gave up almost to 400 yards and 27 points. They
Wow.
are more physical. The 10 days is giving them time. They have the name behind them. Of course, it's not like back in the day. They're good and they run the ball and they're going to try to shorten the game um, with their running game. And I know Carson Beck, I don't know why, but he's 16-3 against AP top 25 teams in his career. He backed up what's his name at Georgia, won 2 national titles. For Mendoza's a real deal though, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. And their average age of their starters is like 23. He did a nice job, Signetti. Because I will always take experienced guys. Just even emotionally more mature than the young guys. Whereas Malachi Tony is the best player probably on Miami, and he's like 18, 19. But they do have good players. It's going to be interesting. Thing is, Indiana, other teams have played with them this year. They beat Iowa by like 7. They beat Penn State on a ridiculous catch in the last few seconds. They beat Bowling Green by like 13, and one was a touchdown late. Some teams have played with them, but it's like the NFL. You never know week to week. But man, when they get rolling, and I think the line is so high because there's recency bias. They smoked Alabama, who I didn't think should have been in the tournament, and then they crushed Oregon. That game was over about 5 minutes in. I think, which again, then they kept playing, and I think Mendoza's tremendous. He doesn't give you a lot of time to get to him. Honestly, I have no idea. I like being the underdog in this one because I've been that favorite, the favorite that everyone, wanted to coronate, and they've, come up short. I'll take this position, and I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'll take my chances with the team with the U. That's all I got to say. We shall see. Great stuff, guys. I was supposed to be somewhere 20 minutes ago. It's all right. This was fun, as always. Steve, folks, you can catch Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports, we're Steve Kallas. You can also catch this podcast on YouTube, all the audio outlets. You can find me on Instagram at JustDayZach4799. 4799 and on Twitter at JustDayZach975. Great stuff, guys. Enjoy the games. I'll be texting both of you, and we'll see you next time.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too.
Thanks, all.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching, folks. Be safe and have a great weekend.